Part 18. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 178. The third day of Shimizuki Academy's Moonflower Festival went on as usual. Although there was an accident in the second-year students' competition, this did not have a great impact on the emotions of most third-year students. Among the third graders, there were only a few people who had some contact with them who cared about yesterday's incident. Lilith, stop looking so sad all the time, is it hard? It doesn't matter to me. Of the 4 people who were unconscious during yesterday's game, only Ling and Brad woke up one after another a few hours later. Brad didn't know what happened to Aika and Luoluo. After waking up, he apologized to Ling, and then left the infirmary accompanied by his Aries classmates. After Brad left, Instructor Letica conveyed the bad news to Ling. After rescue, Aika was out of danger. Luoluo's body was carefully inspected and there were only minor scratches. The 2 of them are currently lying in the double ward of Shimizuki Academy affiliated hospital. Ling, who knew the news, ignored the obstruction of Way 11 and other classmates and dragged her weak body on the last train to the affiliated hospital. Under the care of Instructor Letica, only Way 11 walked with her. After arriving at the ward, they met Principal Phyllis and the instructor of the pharmacy department who had already arrived, as well as senior sisters Lilith and Tylua. Lilith-senpai insisted on staying here, and Tylua-senpai who accompanied her to visit had no choice but to go ahead with the adults. There are still many things in Frost Moon Academy waiting for Principal Phyllis and the student council to deal with. She stayed in the ward with Ling and Way 11 all night, taking turns to rest. It wasn't until the next day's game was about to begin that Senior Lilith had to leave. Your condition is not suitable for participating in the competition at all. Just as Tyruya was worried, many classmates in the Virgin class opposed Lilith's participation in the competition out of good intentions. She needs to rest now. I don't want to make such excuses. I'm worried about them too. But if something bad happens because they're thinking about the accident, it will only make them worried after they wake up. Nothing will happen. Everyone will say this before it actually happens. By the time it happens, it's already too late. Tylua snorted coldly and prepared to apply for a waiver to tutor Terra on her behalf. Tylua, Lilith stopped her uncharacteristically, forcing Tyruya's words back. I'm sorry, I should still decide my own affairs. She pressed down the hand that Tyruya was about to raise and rested her head on her chest. Thank you, this is my last year and I don't want to give up. Lilith. For the third graders, this is the last Moonflower Festival that they can participate in personally. No matter who it is, no one wants to leave any regrets. As Lilith's best friend, Tylua certainly understands this. The 2 of them are in the same group, which has been decided long ago. If she can't participate in the competition with Lilith in her final year, it will be a lifelong regret for Tylua. I know, let's work together. They understood each other's feelings from the beginning, so they didn't need to use a lot of words to express their feelings. The competition on the third day of Shigetsuki Academy's Moonflower Festival officially began, and it was also the last event before the Moonflower Festival came to an end. Ling fell asleep next to Luoluo's hospital bed, and now it was her rest time. Originally, Ling refused to rest, but her weak body would not allow her to do so. Way 11 sat by the window. The breeze that blew into the ward from the window carried a slight fragrance of flowers and gently lifted the white curtains. The ward is very quiet, and the noise outside the window cannot climb up to such a high floor and enter the room. Way 11's pure white hair had been cleaned before coming here, and the uniform stained red by Aika's blood had also been replaced. After spending such a long time in such an environment, Way 11's mood gradually recovered. Every 10 minutes, a nurse will come to the ward, check that there are no abnormalities in the vital signs of the 2 people, and then leave. But the 2 of them never woke up, whether it was Aika who was seriously injured or Luoluo who was slightly injured. Wei 11 suddenly had the illusion that they would sleep like this forever. She hurriedly shook her head to get rid of this inexplicable and terrifying thought. She was no longer as desperate as she had been when she first saw that scene. She cried after knowing that Ika and Luoluo's lives were not in danger. After crying, you can accept this fact. The breeze blowing into the ward woke Ling up from a light sleep. Facing the unchanged people and things, her face was still gloomy. Let me do it. Ling stood up from Luoluo's bed, walked lightly to Wei 11, and patted her shoulder. Wei 11 was looking at the hospital bed in a daze, and was startled by Ling's action. Sister Ling, I can still. You go and rest, I have fully recovered. I don't want to sleep now. Wei 11 rejected Ling's kindness, and Ling couldn't force her on this point. She sighed with a complicated expression and sat down on the chair next to her. The ward became silent again, and it was unclear whether the scent of flowers came from the breeze outside the window or the vase beside the bed. I thought that this empty time would start to cycle again, but Luoluo's slight moaning sounded particularly clear in the silent space. Ling immediately stood up from her seat and came to Luoluo's ward. Luoluo, Luoluo. She looked uncomfortable and frowned on the hospital bed. Ling held her hand, and her body became as hot as a fever. I'm going to call someone. Wei 11 ran out of the ward in a hurry. The fever didn't last long. When Wei 11 took the nurse's hand and rushed to the ward, her body temperature had returned to normal and she didn't look as uncomfortable as before. How is Luoluo? Have no idea. Ling stepped away from the bed and asked the nurse to check Luoluo's physical condition. There seems to be no problem. The nurse just took one look and smiled. Luoluo opened his eyes slightly on the hospital bed. Very good. Ling, who had been gloomy for such a long time, finally showed his joy like an iceberg melting. The nurse stepped aside with a smile, and Wei 11 and Ling immediately crowded to the bedside. How do you feel? Is there anything uncomfortable? Lolo, I've been waiting for you to wake up. She has just woken up. It would be better for you two not to stimulate her like this. The nurse knew that she could not persuade the two excited people, but it was her responsibility to remind the patient's family, so she could only smile bitterly. After Luoluo's eyes gradually adapted to the light in the room, he half-sided up and looked around blankly. Her eyes swept over Wei 11, Ling, and the nurse in turn, and finally stopped at the person in the bed next door. Her eyes changed for the first time since she woke up, as if she had recalled something, and her dazed look gradually receded. Ling and Wei 11, who were closest to her, noticed her changes and explained to her with gestures. Ika is fine too, he's just asleep now. The doctor said, Brother Ika will wake up as long as he rests a little longer. This little sister is right. Now that you have woken up, he is about to wake up too. Ling and Wei 11 held her hands respectively, trying to make her feel relieved. When the two returned to the central square of Frost Moon Academy, anyone could see that Luoluo must have been very emotional before he passed out. There were tears left in the corners of her eyes, her hands tightly grasped Ika's uniform, and she fell on Ika as if to protect him. But the injured person was Ika, while Luoluo was unscathed. No one knows what happened to them during the time they disappeared. We can only guess that it is definitely not a good thing, and anyone in their right mind would think so. Therefore, neither Ling nor Wei 11 asked her what happened when she woke up, even though they wanted to know what caused this tragedy. Now Ika and Luoluo are both safe and sound. If Luoluo just forgets this tragedy, Ling and Wixi will never deliberately let her recall it for the sake of further investigation. They all have memories they don't want to recall, and they know all too well what it's like not to dig into that memory. Luoluo gently took his hands out of Ling and Wei 11's hands, then lifted a corner of the quilt and put his bare feet into the indoor slippers that had been prepared by the bed. The large white hospital gown worn on her slender body had a slight sense of incongruity and a different kind of charm. Her eyes seemed to only reflect the boy lying there. Facing Ling and Wei 11, she had not said a word. Luoluo stretched out his hand and walked towards the bed next door with unsteady steps. Ling quickly stood up and supported Luoluo's body. Unexpectedly, Luoluo opened her hand. Although Luoluo's strength was not great and could even be called weak, Ling still let go of his hand. She couldn't understand Luoluo's action at all, and her eyes were filled with astonishment. Wei 11, who came around the hospital bed, saw this scene and stopped in confusion. Luoluo ignored the two people he left behind indifferently, and continued to stagger to Ika's hospital bed. Her lips opened and closed slightly, but no words came out. Ling and Wei 11 did not dare to take another step forward, and Luoluo's move showed a strong rejection. This is behavior that Luoluo would never see on ordinary days, so Ling and Wei 11 hesitated. The nurse was also at a loss and didn't know what to do. She wanted to call the doctor, but she couldn't leave the children here because of her sense of responsibility. Luoluo stood in front of Ika's hospital bed and stared at his sleeping face solemnly for a long time. Her hands that were hanging down weakly were placed on her chest, as if feeling her own heartbeat. Then, she leaned down slightly and tucked her long sky blue hair behind her ears. Luoluo shortened the distance between him and Ika, and their lips touched lightly. Lolo. Seeing this scene, Ling could no longer sit idly by and ignore it. She walked quickly to Luoluo and pulled her body up. Do you know what you are doing now? You are the only one who cannot do this kind of behavior with him. Ling's action was not rough, he simply asked Luoluo to leave Ika and pulled her back to his bed. A button of the large white hospital gown popped open, and a large area of skin on Lolo's left shoulder was exposed to the air. Her long hair became messy as a result, and her expression was covered by her hanging bangs. Sister Ling, that's too much. Wei 11, you clearly know the consequences of doing this. I know, but Luoluo. Why? Luoluo's emotionless voice intervened in the argument between Ling and Wei 11, why can't I do this? She slowly raised her head, staring at the two speechless people with firm eyes without fear, and then asked the question word by word. Who are you? What does it have to do with Ika? And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 179. Her Royal Highness, the third princess of the Bis Empire, Lan Mingyila, and her second prince, Philip Yila, held a joint ocean fleet exercise in the Northwest Waters in their own names. The bill passed UN Lauwen's review without any hindrance and was approved. The two organizers will also visit the fleet in person, so this time the joint ocean fleet exercise will not allow people other than designated personnel to come within 200 nautical miles of the exercise sea area. Although the technology of airships and aviation-guided ships has matured, the ocean is still a huge treasure house of resources, and navigation technology has not declined due to the development of aviation technology. On the contrary, by borrowing the power of magic machinery, the strength of the ocean fleet has been greatly improved. However, the leaders of modern warfare are magicians. Aviation magic ships and combat robots are also favored because of their outstanding performance. The probability of naval battles is greatly reduced. Therefore, the superficial purpose of the two organizers proposing this joint maritime fleet exercise is to give the maritime fleet, which has been neglected for many years, a chance to practice, which is beneficial to the Bis Empire. Two huge fleets set off from ports in two directions and waited in waters 500 nautical miles apart. Lan Ming's fleet is close to the Western Sea, and Philip's fleet is close to the Northern Sea. Lan Ming personally went to Philip to discuss this proposal. Although he didn't know what his sister was going to do, Philip could guess that things were not as simple as they seemed. Only in times like this would you think of asking me for help. At first, Philip did not immediately agree to Lan Ming's request. It will not affect Brother Wang's reputation, please rest assured. Of course the Imperial Sister's request will not be detrimental to me. I still believe in this. Then agree to co-sign with me. Why don't you ask Brother Huang for help? The royal brother in Philip's mouth refers to the first prince of the Bis Empire and the most recognized man in the Bis Empire. How should I answer this kind of question? Lan Ming deliberately pretended to be aggrieved. Philip could see through it at a glance, and Lan Ming himself knew it well. Well, if I promise you, I have a precondition. You want to know my purpose, right? As expected of my royal sister, that's true. I knew it. I don't know your purpose, how should I cooperate with you? Philip leaned into Lan Ming's ear with a smile, and whispered, in other words, can you trust me to this extent? Ha! Lan Ming pushed his head away and sighed loudly, if Brother Huan can't be trusted, then there is no one in August who is worthy of my trust. That child Zi Ming will cry when she hears these words. Philip returned to his usual smiling face. Well, she probably won't cry because she knows what you said was against her will. Brother, please don't expose me in front of me. Even in this situation, Lan Ming still faced Philip with a smile, without any flaws. Or maybe he deliberately exposed flaws that are not called flaws. Everyone in Augustly can be an enemy, as I'm sure you know all too well. I have indeed not forgotten this. Since the Emperor has asked so, I will tell you my purpose. Oh? Did you decide so soon? But not everything. Lan Ming shook his finger. I will only tell you where you need to cooperate with me. Let's talk and listen. Philip did not continue to test Lan Ming's attitude. Only they themselves know the content of the discussion between the two. The 6 cruisers maintained a distance of 200 nautical miles from the commander ship, forming a circle to protect the crucial commander ship. Under the water are 4 submarines on standby. The nuclear power is replaced by a molecular power furnace, which increases their concealment under the water. The unmanned reconnaissance aircraft took off from the cruiser's catapult and went to high altitude to search for the enemy. The magnetic detector was operated during the journey, and the buoy sonar dropped along the way established a strong underwater defense line. The shipboard radar on the ship showed that there was no magic power fluctuation from the magic machine within a range of 500 nautical miles. The faster destroyers left the fleet from different directions. The exercise sea area was not very wide, and the unmanned reconnaissance aircraft quickly discovered the enemy. The first round of saturation attacks has begun. Today's saturation attacks are only comparing the durability of the shipborne magic barriers on both sides, and cannot quickly disintegrate the defense force. After the exploratory saturation attack, the battle lines were quickly drawn up, and the unmanned carrier-based aircraft of the command ships of both sides entered the battle. Air superiority still has indispensable significance for the ocean fleet. The air defense network formed by the cruisers has become the most reliable barrier for the command ship, and the destroyers entering the guerrilla warfare can also provide support according to the real-time situation. The mechanical shipborne cannon stirred up huge waves on the water traces of the torpedoes crisscrossed in multiple directions, and the laser of the magic shipborne cannon cut the water surface straight. During the intense exchange of artillery fire, the bottom compartment of the commander ship where Lan Ming was riding quietly began to fill with water. The hatch opened, and a slender small submarine was clamped by a mechanical arm and transported outside the hatch. After reaching the appropriate distance, the robotic arm automatically releases the clamped small submarine. The small submarine's molecular power furnace began to operate, and the sound of magic ripples and drainage mixed with the sound of torpedoes, and it quickly left the exercise sea area. Lan Ming, we are out of the sonar monitoring range. Thank you for your hard work, Charlotte. Lan Ming stretched out in the narrow cabin, while Lan Ming concentrated on controlling the small submarine to pass through the reef. There were only 2 of them on board this small submarine. By the way, Charlotte. What's wrong? Have you ever heard of the expression kelp entangles a submarine? I'm sorry, Your Highness, please forgive my ignorance. It doesn't matter. It is said that this was a theory put forward by a great navigator known as Zhou 100 years ago. This statement was later verified by reality. Ha! It was indeed the first time that Charlotte knew the statement, and she still had a dubious attitude. Do you think this statement is impossible? To be honest. Charlotte hesitated. Even if kelp can entangle a submarine from 100 years ago, now that the submarine is equipped with a molecular power furnace, the probability of such an accident should be very small. It is the art of language not to express one's doubts clearly but to give reassuring reasons at the same time. I hope so too. Lan Ming, what's wrong with you? Lan Ming suddenly mentioned such a digression, and Xiaoluo's thinking had not changed in time. Shouldn't we think about the future now? Over at the Ocean Fleet, someone has been found to take command on my behalf. Brother Huang will also cooperate with the battle to delay time. The important thing is. Lan Ming looked at the current seabed information displayed on the PDA and muttered to himself. What's wrong? We seem to have entered an area where kelp grows intensively. I don't know if it was a psychological effect, but Charlotte did feel that the small submarine seemed to be unstable. Charlotte. Your Highness, please hold on to the fixture at hand. The small submarine in the kelp bushes began to drain and float rapidly, and the molecular power furnace began to operate at full power at the same time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 180. Who are you? Does it have anything to do with Ika? Her slightly parted lips did indeed say such words. In such a silent space, it was impossible for Ling to hear wrongly. Wei 11 took a step back with some fear. Luoluo, could it be said, have you forgotten us? This was the only possibility, but Ling still clung to the glimmer of hope that it might be her own misunderstanding. Her throat was a little dry, and she struggled to seek confirmation from Luoluo. She lowered her outstretched hand because she knew she would get the same response. I don't know you, where are you? This is the affiliated hospital of Shiyu Academy. You and the boy were sent here together. Both of you are fine now. The nurse carefully explained the current situation. This is not the first time she has encountered a patient with amnesia, so she is more mature than Ling and Wei 11 in terms of coping methods. Is he okay? Luoluo's eyes flashed with relief. Luoluo, I am Wei 11. Luoluo was silent for a while, then shook his head. She had no recollection of the name. A wave of despair suddenly hit Wei 11's heart, and she tried her best to cover her mouth so as not to cry. Lolo, do you remember what happened? Sister Ling, what happened at that time? Even though she has been forgotten by Luoluo, Wei 11 still cares about her mood. I only know my name. Luoluo looked at his hands and admitted his amnesia in a low voice. I'm not asking about this kind of thing, do you remember? The person who stopped Ling in action was the nurse. Don't use memories to stimulate her now. Memories will indeed be the key to restoring memory, but there is also the possibility that the memory will never be restored. Why? Her current memory capacity is very small. If a chain reaction is caused through memories and a large amount of memories are restored in an instant, her spirit will completely collapse. The nurse lady could understand Ling's impatience for being so rude, and she patiently explained to Ling and Wei 11. How so? Wei 11 originally thought that as long as she told Luoluo about the time they all experienced together in the past, the deeply buried memories would be awakened. But the nurse's professional explanation extinguished the last hope. This kind of romantic scene that often appears in novels simply does not apply in the cruel reality. What about him? Ling suddenly turned around and stared at the overwhelmed Luoluo. You definitely haven't forgotten him, right? You can't possibly forget him. Miss Ling, please calm down. I do not know who he is. It's a lie. Before Luoluo's confession, Ling completely lost her momentum. You kissed him. But when I saw him for the first time, some pictures suddenly appeared in my mind. In the simple restaurant, I happily put the used spoon into the boy's mouth. In the deserted path, the two hugged each other for a long time. I don't know if those scenes really existed, but this feeling. Luoluo put his hands on his chest as if he had just stood in front of Ika's hospital bed. Close your eyes, the feeling of your first experience spreads in your heart again. I must have liked him a long time ago. Ling and Wei 11 didn't know how to deny her at all. The two of them had long been aware of Luoluo's mood, but Luoluo never showed it clearly in words or actions. The distance between loved ones blurs their relationships. Now Luoluo only has the purest emotions left, and the three women present all understand this. Ling, Wei 11, stop talking. An unexpected voice broke in. Ika, are you awake yet? Ling turned her head in surprise, and Ika sat up on the hospital bed. Brother Ika, when did you wake up? Wei 11 was also very surprised. Ika, who was much more seriously injured than Luoluo, actually woke up at about the same time as her. While Luoluo is doing that kind of thing, don't ask about this yet. Ika's cheeks felt hot when she recalled the scene at that time. He did not see Luoluo's face directly, but understood the whole story from their dispute. The moist feeling of Luoluo's lips still lingered on his mouth. Did you hear it all? Even though she already knew the answer, Ling still asked him this useless question. That's it? In fact, she hoped that Ika would lie and say she didn't know. The current answer shows that he accepted Luoluo's last words. Let me talk to Luoluo alone, okay? Ika made a rare plea to everyone present, including Lolo. I'll tell the doctor to come over. You two should come with me. In this way, only Ika and Luoluo will be left in the ward. Now that the situation between the two of them is not completely clear, Ling and Wei 11 are very hesitant to leave here like this. Brother Ika, I want to ask. You haven't forgotten me? Since the day I met you a year ago, I will always remember. Wei 11 Ika turned to look at Ling, who looked uneasy. I will never forget you, Ling. After receiving Ika's promise, Ling nodded stiffly. I also know the nurse's advice. Don't worry, I won't irritate her. Then I can leave with peace of mind. Ling followed the nurse and left the ward. Wei 11 waved goodbye to the two of them at the door of the ward, and then gently closed the door. Ika tried to put on her slippers and stood up. Although there is still a dull pain in the body, it does not affect normal activities. He still clearly remembered everything that happened, but Luoluo would become like this, which was an unexpected development for him. In that strange space, he pushed Luoluo away and felt sharp pain in his body for only a moment. Since he feels like this, Luoluo should be fine. What happened after that, he had no idea. Standing up suddenly made Ika feel dizzy. Coupled with his physical discomfort, his steps staggered. Someone supported his body from beside him. Stop forcing yourself. I'm not that weak yet. Ika held Luoluo's shoulders and left her body. If you want to compare to being weak, you are no better than me. It seems that with a little force, his hands can push her now. Ika feels like this. I felt a sting in my heart. Pretending that nothing had happened, Ika put on Lolo's messy clothes and buttoned the chest buttons. Sorry. When Ika was helping her sort out her clothes, Luoluo suddenly noticed her current appearance. I just anxiously supported the swaying Ika without thinking too much about it. This place has not changed at all. No, it's nothing. Ika was not particularly surprised by what Luoluo said in front of Ling and Wei 11. It's just that there was no need to consider this issue before, so I deliberately ignored this fact. Wouldn't you be scared to stay here with me alone? Luoluo was silent for a while, then shook his head slightly. Although my heartbeat is a little accelerated, it shouldn't be fear. Yeah. Although now sitting next to Luoluo, Ika can't find anything in common. Recalling the time I spent alone with her, I didn't deliberately look for common topics, but I could say anything to her. Aika. Is it okay if I call you that? I do not mind. We've known each other a long time ago, right? You can say that. Have known each other since birth. What did I originally call you? Want to tell her the real answer? If the brother-sister relationship between the two is revealed, the relevant memories can be traced back to more than 10 years, which will undoubtedly be a huge stimulus to her now. Although he wanted to hear her call him brother as usual right now, Aika could not allow himself to make such an irresponsible and dangerous attempt. Do you remember anything besides my name? Aika turned to Lolo and asked the question. We may have met in the restaurant, I seemed to call you by your first name at that time. Lolo confirmed to Aika with evasive eyes that she was not sure about the authenticity of those memory fragments. At that time, such a thing did happen. Are we, family? Lolo. Aika reacted immediately to her whisper, and it would be great if she could recall the relationship between the two on her own. I'm sorry. This is just my guess, wishful thinking. Seeing Lolo blushing and waving his hands to deny, Aika realized that he was the one who misunderstood. The family she refers to has taken on a different meaning. Because I've already done that kind of thing. In the first-grade restaurant, Aika and Lolo did something very shameful. This was the source of her misunderstanding. That's why, I thought we had. No, we are not old enough to get married yet. Ugh, I'm sorry. Lolo seemed to be expecting Aika to confirm her guess. If it was a normal Lolo, Aika could deal with her with a joke. But now, every word she said had an unusual meaning to her. Just like writing on a white paper with a pen, a single stroke will leave conspicuous handwriting. Did I often trouble you like this? That's probably it, Aika responded casually. As soon as the words came out, he realized his mistake, but I hope you can always trouble me, that's it? Lolo, who was originally frustrated by Aika's affirmative answer, was easily comforted by his addition. Then, can you tell me, Lolo came closer to Aika and stared into his eyes, who am I to you? From the wide neckline, you can see Lolo's white collarbone and neck. Aika's chest felt hot and she quickly looked away. In your opinion, what kind of relationship do we have? Aika, who couldn't think of a suitable answer in a short time, could only ask her what she thought. Like. The only words Aika could hear clearly were these two words. In this case, only your own affirmation and denial are left. Of course, the former is much easier than the latter. Is it really okay to keep this relationship going until she regains her memory? How will Ling and Wei 11 react when they find out? What will the people around you think? From this point of view, no matter which answer is given, the road ahead will be extremely bumpy. In this case, just choose the option you prefer. Aika made this decision, which determined how the two of them would get along after this moment. Lolo. He pulled her closer to him as he always did to comfort her when she was confused. Please stay by my side. The same hug as usual, but with a different meaning. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 181. After that, the two of them were taken away by the doctor who hurriedly came to the ward. After a detailed examination, they were allowed to go home after confirming that there was no serious problem. Even well-informed doctors were surprised at how quickly Aika's wounds healed. In his words, Aika's abdomen was completely penetrated, and even suturing the wound became extremely difficult. The instructor of the pharmacy department participated in the operation and was able to barely manage it. Now that the bandage on the abdomen has been removed, it has completely healed except for an obvious suture scar. Modern medical technology is also at a loss to solve the problem of Lolo's memory. Principal Phyllis then returned to the affiliated hospital and brought in tutor Tara. Her research field is magic that interferes with the human spirit, a magic system with an imperfect system. The memory has not been damaged in any way, it is just isolated from consciousness. I can only say that I feel this way, but there is no definite evidence to be sure. After checking Luluo's memory, Instructor Tara gave everyone this conclusion. I'm sorry, Tutor Tara, I don't understand the conclusion. Is there any way to solve this problem? Ling went straight to the topic anxiously. At the moment, there is no quick solution. We can only wait for her to recover on her own. Instructor Tara did not give the answer that everyone hoped for. When Luluo was examined by Tutor Tara alone, Ika told Ling and Wei 11 his final decision. Do you think this solves the problem? After Ling learned this fact, she remained very calm. Perhaps she had already been mentally prepared. I'm not that naive. If no one exposes this lie, you can continue to live in this relationship. This is wrong. Wei 11 stopped Ling from continuing. She was not just a bystander, this is deceiving Luluo. If it was something Wei 11 couldn't accept, she would clearly object to it now. The current Luluo is not the real Luluo. I know. Wei 11's words touched Ika. Her current behavior was a naked deception for Luluo. Putting those questions aside for now, what are you going to do in the future? I haven't thought about it yet. Ika himself was still confused. After making such a decision, too many questions came to mind. Most of the students in Frost Moon Academy know your true relationship with her. The truth will be revealed as soon as you enter the academy. Ling's criticism hit the nail on the head. This kind of lie that is full of loopholes will be exposed in front of everyone. Before her memory recovers, I will take her to live outside for a while. Where are you going? Ika couldn't answer right away. Sister Ling, give Brother Ika some time to think. There was no time for him to think. Wei 11, can you please Lu Yin? Are you going to take Luo to the imperial capital? Can you really be called calm now? For the brother and sister, the current imperial capital is like a tiger's den, and there are many people watching them. There should be no problem with this. Wei 11 put forward a different opinion. If it is Xiao's mansion, no one will approach it easily. And then hide in there and never come out? How long do you think you can last like this? Before getting a clear plan, Ling would never hand over Lolo to Ika easily. Wei 11 has already begun to contact Lu Yin. Sorry, give me a moment. She's coming out soon. If your relationship turns into that kind of relationship, it's better to have less contact with us. This has nothing to do with you, right? Just say that you are my friends. The relationship of family cannot be used here, and the loopholes in lies will become wider and wider. Even if Luluo loses her memory, her common sense is still there. Living together with friends of the opposite sex probably only exists in your worldview. Ika was speechless. Well, I understand. Wei 11 ended her communication with Liu Yin and returned to the two silent people. When we left Xiao's mansion for the last time, Brother Ika, Luluo, and Sister Ling's magic ripples were already logged in. Xiao said you can use them freely. He hasn't given me an answer yet. Can't we settle down there first and then think about it slowly? Wei 11, now it's not a question of where to live, but that they can't go to the imperial capital at all. If that's the case, you can rest assured for now. Why do you say that? Wei 11's confident assertion caught Ika's attention. That's what Xiaoan told me just now. The current situation in the imperial city is very unstable. There was a robbery incident in Petak prison. The Imperial City Defense Bureau was in chaos, and Augustus was also implicated. I didn't expect so many things to happen there in such a short period of time. Shimizuki Academy will not broadcast live news about the Bis Empire, so Ika will naturally not be aware of the changes in current events. Furthermore, Her Royal Highness Princess Lanming and His Royal Highness the Second Prince held a joint ocean fleet exercise. August's remaining attention is focused on them and he should not disturb Brother Ika. Lan Ming also helped. Her Royal Highness, it's not like she held that drill specifically for you, it was just a coincidence. Of course I know that. So, Brother Ika and Luoluo can go live there for a while now. But the time cannot be too long. Way 11 finally added this. Does it get dangerous if it goes too long? I know that. No. Isn't it? That is indeed part of the reason, but I hope you can come back sooner. Way 11 was not as relieved as she said. She was still worried about the future of Ika and Luoluo. Don't worry, I will always pay attention to Luoluo's situation, and I will bring her back after her mood stabilizes. Ika made a promise to Ling and Way 11, there is one more thing I want to ask of you. In this way, Ika and Luoluo's short-term life plan was decided with difficulty. Ika and Luoluo left Shimatsuki Academy that evening. They have stayed at Liuyan's mansion many times, and the owner of the mansion rarely goes home, so it can be regarded as their home in the imperial capital. They didn't take any luggage with them because Lolo couldn't be allowed near the caretaker's cabin. The Liuyan mansion is fully equipped with daily necessities, and Principal Felice also forced Ika to use a large sum of money as living expenses during this period. If such an accident happens to a student, it is Shigetsuki Academy's responsibility, and it is natural to bear such expenses. She used this reason to get Ika to accept the money, but of course she didn't let Lolo know. After the two of them said goodbye to Ling and Way 11 at the entrance of the affiliated hospital, they boarded the magic train to the airport. On spring nights, the dusk sky still turns into darkness at a speed visible to the naked eye. When the magic train arrived at the airport, the first star in the sky had already begun to twinkle. While the train was moving, Ika told Lolo the cause and story that everyone had discussed and agreed on. Ling and Way 11 are now very good friends. They are both students of Shiyu Academy. Because of a little accident that occurred during the Moonflower Festival match yesterday, the two were now forced to go home to rest. Of course, whether it is Frost Moon Academy or the Moonflower Festival, to Luoluo, they are just Ika's verbal descriptions. She would not know that the haunted house restaurant in the twin class was successful under her own organization, and that she had cheered for the whole class. As Ika spoke, her vision suddenly became blurry. What is there to cry about this kind of thing? I am not a girl. Ika originally hoped that the students in the twin class would not forget the success achieved due to Luoluo's hard work, but she did not expect that the first person to lose this memory was herself. Ika. I'm fine. Ika didn't take her handkerchief from Luoluo's hand because he couldn't just admit defeat. No matter whether Luoluo recovers in the end, he will always be by her side. Please stay with me. If this sentence were expressed in another way. Please let me stay by your side. The former is Ika's response to Luoluo's feelings. The latter is Ika's answer to his heart. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 182. Feeling guilty for treating Liuyan's mansion as his own without permission, Ika passed the magic ripple verification at the front door. The luxurious iron door of the mansion was open to the two of them, and Luoluo followed Ika into the courtyard. The lights on the main road came on one after another, and she was pleasantly surprised to admire the beautiful courtyard shining in the night. This is our home. In Luoluo's perception, Ika and himself are now lovers living together. With her character, it is simply impossible to live with a boy she met for the first time. But Luoluo believes that his feelings will not deceive him, and he is convinced of this. Ika, who had watched Luoluo grow up, could hear the tension in her voice, but at this point, she could only continue to play the forbidden relationship. However, the current premise is different from common sense. Although her body is his sister, her consciousness is not. So is there any problem with such a relationship in the eyes of normal people? As Ika walked towards the main house, she was thinking about irrelevant ethical issues. Amazing. Haha. In fact, Liuyan is very powerful, but Luoluo regards everything as Ika's property. Ika could only bite the bullet and accept Lululo's praise. Have we always lived here? Most of the time I live in the dormitory of Frost Moon Academy, and I only come back during the holidays. That's it? The two walked along the main road to the main house. Ika opened the door. The layout of the hall on the first floor was still the same as when they left. You can already feel the luxury of the mansion in the lobby. That. Lululo seemed to want to know something, but she hesitated and did not continue to ask. There are only two of us here. If you have anything to say, just say it. They didn't bring suitcases as before, and Ika walked up the stairs to the bedroom on the second floor empty-handed, feeling as if she was at home. For Lolo, this was her first visit to the mansion, and she immediately followed Ika up the stairs. Is there a room of my own here? Of course there will be. Every time they stayed here, the girls lived in the same room together. Now it's okay to use that room as Lululo's personal room. Very good. Lululo's tone sounded much more relaxed. Why do you suddenly care about this issue? Ika originally didn't need to know the answer to this question, but now she must always pay attention to Lululo's changes in mood. Any familiar scene may be an opportunity for her to regain her memory. You said that we are living together now. I said so. I thought we lived in the same room. That's completely impossible. Isn't that what living together means? I don't think that's what it means. That's it? Ika had no idea whether Lululo was in good or bad mood at the moment, but he guessed that Lululo wanted his own space. The original excuse for living together was already very ridiculous. Fortunately, Lululo did not become suspicious of Ika's words, so things developed so smoothly. What would happen if she came into contact with someone with ill intentions while in a state of amnesia? Ika didn't want to make this assumption at all, as long as he watched her carefully during this period. Here we are, this is your original room. Ika stopped in front of that room. My room is next door, just come to me if you need anything. Well, thank you. After Lululo closed the door, Ika returned to the room where she had lived. Liuyan's mansion has a barrier that reacts to unauthorized intruders. The first time he came here, Ika didn't notice it. After studying and living in Chiyu Academy for half a year, he can barely feel the existence of the barrier now. So he could safely arrange Lululo in another room, but it was just separated by a wall. There were no changes in his room, and the windows remained the same as they were closed when he left. The last time I stayed here was 4 months ago. The air in the room did not feel turbid due to long periods of non-ventilation. Ika opened the curtains on both sides and pushed open the window. The wind became stronger at night, and the curtains were blown high. Suddenly there was a dong sound in the room. Ika thought it was Lululo knocking on the door, but the sound did not come from the door. The sound of dong sounded softly again, this time 3 times, and Ika found the source of the sound. He walked to the wall and waited for a while. Sure enough, after a short silence, the same voice came for the 3rd time. Opposite this wall is Lululo's room. After the noise on the other side stopped, Ika also raised his hand and knocked lightly on the wall, making the same noise. This time, there was no response after a long time. What is she doing? With this question in mind, Ika sat back on the bed. When people like this sit around with nothing to do, it is very easy for people to think wildly. A huge mansion, 2 people living together, she lives in the room next door, and now it's night again. Even if you don't have the courage to actually do it, it's easy to imagine something like that in your mind. For other boys of the same age, probably all kinds of unspeakable things are occupying their minds right now. But Ika's heart is very peaceful, and she has long been accustomed to this kind of life. Whether it was the two's original home, the caretaker's cabin, or Liuyan's mansion, Lululo had always lived in the room next to him. I don't remember when it started, or who first realized that there was a slight distance between Ika and Lululo. In some ways, Lolo is no longer honest in front of Ika. This kind of change is an inevitable development with age, and it was already like this when Ika noticed it. But he didn't regret it, because he also unknowingly discovered the difference between Lululo and himself, and was gradually attracted by this difference. Ika knew that the way she looked at Lululo had changed, but she just wouldn't show it in front of everyone. Sometimes, this kind of unclean thought will be amplified, but it is still within the extent that you can solve it independently. So this thought was buried deep in his heart, and now he was satisfied as long as he could look at her as a brother. The sound of dong dong brought his thoughts back, and Ika realized that he had almost fallen asleep. This time, the knock was no longer on an impenetrable wall, but on a door that could be opened by turning the handle. Although Ika's mood was turbulent in a short period of time, he had just calmed down his restless heart. This process has been repeated so many times over the years that the result is only numbness inside. Lululo was still wearing the uniform of Shiyu Academy and stood solemnly outside the door. "Want to come in?" "No, no," Ika guessed her intention wrong for the first time. "The clothes in my room are a bit small." "Ah, that is. How should I explain it to her?" Ika had forgotten about this question until now. The pajamas that already existed in the closet in the room were only suitable for Wei 11 and Lu Yin to wear. Every time we stayed here, everyone brought their pajamas. "Look, haven't we been back for a few months? Now is the growth period of the body, so it will be like that." This time, Lululo's eyes were obviously filled with suspicion. "Even in the growth period?" "That's right, it's the growth period. Besides, did I like that style before? Ika once saw Liu Yin wearing pajamas here. In a word, she was full of childishness. All the pajamas you are wearing now are left in the dormitory of Frost Moon Academy. Can you make do with it tonight? Let's go to Center Street to buy new pajamas together tomorrow." If he continues to struggle, the loopholes in the lie will become wider and wider, and Ika quickly finds a way to compromise. "Then there's nothing I can do, but I'm not used to sleeping naked. Sorry, it would have been better if we had brought them out together before." After deciding to leave Shiyu Academy, they had no time to go back to the administrator's cabin to prepare their luggage. Ling and Wei 11 also ignored this detail. "It doesn't matter, if it's just one night." "That's good. Is the bathroom on the first floor? Speaking of which, you don't remember this place either, let me take you to get familiar with it." Ika closed the door to her room with her backhand. After taking Lululo around the mansion, she had memorized the layout. "That's about it. There are basically empty rooms on the second floor. After you finish using the bathroom, go back to your room. I'll take a rest here." This statement is a hint to Lululo that during the time she takes a bath, she will stay in the room honestly and will not move back and forth in the house. "Okay. So we won't go into the bathroom together. Do you have any misunderstandings about cohabitation life now?" "Ahaha, maybe I'm overthinking. However, if you feel that the lifestyle you imagined is more suitable." No, it's okay, I'm going back to the room first." Fortunately, he didn't say all the words without thinking, and Ika ran away from Lululo. He hid in the room and was in agony. Unexpectedly, there would be such a moment when he wanted to use Lululo's amnesia to realize his dirty delusions. Will it really go well? Ika slumped on the chair, the night wind blowing on her face, sobering up her chaotic brain. After feeling refreshed, I will feel even more disgusted with myself like this. After Lululo used the bathroom, he returned to his room. Ika noticed the subtle sound of the door closing in the next room. Ika is sitting on the chair now and doesn't want to move, thinking about taking a shower later. Lululo knocked on the wall next door again, and Ika immediately stood up and responded to her before the second sound. With just such a small move, he could feel her closeness, and Ika's chest began to hurt again. Before the day came to an end, Ika left the room and took a shower. When he returned to the second floor, he was planning to go to Lululo to say hello, but finally gave up the idea. She doesn't have suitable pajamas right now, so it's probably not convenient to meet her. Just like that, an unusual night ended easily. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 183. The next day, Ika took Lolo to the nearby Center Street to buy pajamas and some necessary daily necessities according to the agreement last night. Although the current imperial capital is in a relatively safe state for the two of them, it is better to move around as little as possible outside. They have been to Center Street twice, but this is the first time for Lolo now. There are many clothing stores here, and this is not the first time Ika has accompanied Lolo to buy clothes. How about this? Well, I also think this style should be suitable even though she lost her memory, her preferences have not changed. Why do you know what I like? I've seen it before. Is it really appropriate to say this kind of thing? Ika felt that the clerk's eyes were too kind. Have you seen me in pajamas, could it be? Lululo didn't know what kind of scene he had imagined in his little head, and his face turned red. Because you often walk around the room in your pajamas. Can I just buy this one? Wanting to leave this kind of place immediately, Ika quickly used facts to dispel Lululo's groundless fantasy. Lululo nodded nervously, I'll try it on. She ran into the fitting room holding the pajamas Ika had given her. Ika wanted to stop her, but she didn't have time. This is a special section for women's clothing. Ika, who was left here by Lululo, suddenly felt the vigilant gazes coming from all around. After waiting for a few minutes under this kind of psychological torture, Lululo finally poked his head out of the fitting room, but still hid his body behind the curtain. Ika, please come here. What's wrong? Is the size not right? It was a lot easier for Ika to finally turn his attention to Lululo. No, when Ika approached the fitting room, Lululo whispered to her that she was requesting, can you come in and help me? Of course not. Ika also lowered her voice and decisively rejected her. He had already had such a premonition, so he didn't feel much surprised. There are two very long ribbons on the back of the neck. I want to see how they look after being tied. Tie a knot yourself first, and I will help you tie it again after you come out. But, I want to see the perfect effect first. Besides, this is a fitting room for women. If I enter, the clerk will definitely call the police. Do you want that to happen? I know. Lululo suddenly let go of his hand holding the curtain, and the curtain covering his body lightly slid to both sides. There is no other male here except you, and you won't be caught at this angle. Saw it outside? That's right. Ika looked away from Lululo's body with a guilty conscience. Although the pajamas did fit well on the body, they looked a bit loose because the ribbon at the back was not tied. Through the gaps under the armpits, you can even see the slight bulge on the chest. I understand, please turn around first. Lululo turned around obediently, but this gave Ika even more excitement. The skin on the back was not covered at all, and the fair skin looked even whiter and tender under the soft lighting in the store. Ika. There was no movement behind him, and Lululo turned his head in confusion. I am sorry, I didn't know there was such a design behind it. Now it's too late to turn around and act like she didn't see her, so Ika can only apologize to her. This is the pajamas she chose for her because it was folded when she held it in her hand. Ika only used the color and pattern as the selection criteria. I was also shocked when I first put it on. When Ika pointed out something inappropriate, Lululo shyly turned his head, his red cheeks reflected in the floor-to-ceiling mirror in the dressing room. I thought it was your interests. You may have misunderstood me. This way you can rest assured. Sure enough, Lululo was worried about this kind of highly revealing pajamas, and the clothes she chose were always pure clothes. Although it's not my interest, well, it's not my interest. It doesn't matter, I know it was me who misunderstood without permission. But, you dress very nicely. Okay, does it look good? That's it? Lululo did not expect to receive such a comment from Aika, and her feelings of surprise and joy were conveyed to Aika with her excited voice. But it's better to buy more normal pajamas. If you dress like this at home every day, I won't have the confidence. Why don't you have confidence? That's my personal problem. Anyway, it's too dangerous. A young woman who came from the corner nodded to the two of them with a kind smile and walked into the fitting room next door. The customer must have heard most of the conversation between the two, and Aika is still standing facing Lolo like this. I'm sorry, please help me get a new one. Lululo blushed and hid behind the curtain again. Aika was finally able to breathe freely and understood how shameful the scene just now was. There were not many customers in the store. Except for the customer just now, no one else noticed the incident in front of the fitting room. But when Aika was choosing pajamas for Lolo again, she still felt a thorn in her back. Lolo. Thank you. Have you made your choice? Try this one. This time, Aika did not make the same mistake again. He carefully checked the style with the permission of the shop assistant. Behind the curtain, Lululo was changing clothes, and Aika was leaning against the wall, waiting for her. The young woman who had just entered the fitting room next door seemed to have finished trying on the clothes. Before leaving, she gave Aika another meaningful smile, and then walked to the cashier to pay. Aika responded politely with a stiff smile, feeling more embarrassed every extra second she stayed in this place. Aika, are you still there? Lululo's voice came from behind the curtain. Yes, still there. Hearing Aika's voice, Lululo walked out of the fitting room. How about it? Aika chose a very ordinary nightgown style, similar to the style Lululo wore in the caretaker's cabin. I think it looks pretty. Thanks. You can choose a few more by yourself. Well, just buy 3 more. It doesn't matter if you buy a few more, your living expenses will still be enough. The price of pajamas is not expensive, and is only a small amount worth mentioning compared to the funds provided by Principal Phyllis. If you buy it without restraint, no amount of money will be enough. Are you still thinking about this issue? Aika smiled happily. The current Lululo should not know that their original life was very frugal, but this kind of housekeeping character is the embodiment of Lululo himself. Did I say this before? Occasionally, I will say it. I'm sorry, does this seem a bit petty? Lululo's words just came out of her mouth, and she had no memory of ever saying such words. No, Aika touched her head, I like hearing you say that. Don't like this weird place. Lululo, who was touched by Aika, gently grabbed his arm, but did not stop his movement. Ahem, 2 guests, do you need any other services? The clerk behind them suddenly made a sound, and Aika and Lululo were startled at the same time. In this embarrassing atmosphere, Lululo chose 2 nightgowns that he liked. After trying them on, he decided to buy them. Do you want to buy this one too? What Aika didn't expect was that the pajamas he tried on at the beginning were also brought by Lululo to pay for them. After all, I've already worn it, so I might as well buy it. There should be no such rules in the store. Don't you think, it looks good? I did comment that way. So just buy it? If you want it, just buy it? The reason Aika agreed was because he and Lululo were at the cashier now. For some reason, the clerk was staring at Aika with reproachful eyes. After Aika clearly agreed, the clerk's eyes became gentler, and Lululo's expression also brightened. Aika, thank you. I won't wear it casually at home. Okay, okay. I know. The clerk, who seemed to see everything between the two of them, watched over the young lovers tenderly. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 184. After Ika helped Lolo carry the paper bag containing pajamas and leave the clothing store, the two of them had no purpose for the time being and walked slowly forward along the street. On the way, Lolo occasionally asked Ika some questions about the relationship between the two of them. Ling and Wuxi, who had already anticipated these questions, had spent the night helping Ika think of the answers and sent them to his PDA via text message. The aqua blue necklace she had been hanging around her neck was put away by Ika for her when she left Shimatsuki Academy. Until now, she has not found a suitable time to exchange it with her. Tonight, after she puts on her new pajamas, give them back to her. Ika thought about this. Ika, when I woke up, the two girls in the ward were classmates Ling and Wei 11, right? Finally, the unavoidable question came out of Lulu's mouth. According to common sense, this should be the first question asked, but Lulu didn't ask it until now. Are they really just ordinary friends? It's just because we happen to transfer to school at the same time as them, so we are familiar with them. Ling and Wei 11 pretended to be ordinary friends with whom they had a good relationship, but they did not let Lulu know that they were living together in the administrator's cabin. This fact will not be hidden for too long. Ika does not intend to take Lolo to stay in the imperial capital for too long. His verbal reason is to let Lolo accept this strange world, but in fact it is also to give himself a buffer time. At the moment when he knew that Lolo had lost his memory, Ika was far from as calm as he showed. The calmness he showed in front of Ling and Wei 11 was just a forced smile. Until now, neither of them seemed to have their heads figured out. I don't just mean that. It doesn't matter, just say it. Ling and Wei 11 were the first two people she saw after waking up. Lulu should be very concerned about their identities. What kind of relationship did I have with them? If I have to describe it, sisters is more appropriate. Is that so? Both of them are easy to talk to, so you don't have to be too reserved when getting along with them. In a few days, Ika will take Lolo back to the caretaker's cabin. At that time, he would have to trouble Ling and Wei 11 to cooperate with him. When I woke up, they were really happy. They've been worried about you. Well, I believe them. Thanks. Ika doesn't need to say thank you, right? I'm just saying thank you to Ling and Wei 11 who are not here. They will also be very happy if they hear what you say. You called them by their names directly. Habits become natural, and Ika was speechless for a moment. Lulu smiled as if he had seen through it. It doesn't matter, I don't care about such small things. Whether she cared about it or not, she naturally couldn't hide it from Ika who grew up with her. But Ika can't change the names she calls Ling and Wei 11 because they are also family members. Ling and Wei 11 are very important people to you and me. You called them by their names before you lost your memory. It's definitely not a simple friendship. Yes, although I may make you angry when I say this, I regard them as family members just like you. Ika especially emphasized the word same as you. But I can't be called family yet. You are my most important family. Ika didn't go any further, so Lulu had to stop and look at him awkwardly. Even if you say so. Sorry, there is no evidence. If there is evidence, there is still some evidence. Lulu's eyes glanced behind Ika. He looked back and saw a deserted alley behind him. She didn't elaborate further. But with such an obvious hint, it was impossible for Ika not to understand. Lulu has never made such a request to him. This kind of request is only reasonable in the relationship between lovers. There is no one or thing here who can change the topic, but Ika knows that she must not agree to her request. The real Lolo must know that this approach is wrong. If he agreed to her under such circumstances, it would be the deception that Wei 11 hated most. Ika has been lying to her from the moment she woke up. but he convinced himself that these were helpless actions. Only on this point, Aika did not allow herself to compromise, but doing nothing was impossible. Aika suddenly took her hand and pulled Luoluo quickly into the alley. At that moment, Luoluo resisted, but this resistance was meaningless. Aika kept pulling Luoluo to the wall before letting go. Without giving Luoluo time to calm down, Aika used her elbows to support the wall, leaving her completely unable to escape. Please wait a moment. Luoluo's rapid breathing could be clearly felt in Aika's chest. If you ask me to stop, I will let you go immediately. Aika knew that if she did this, the innocent Luoluo would definitely fall into chaos. Aika wanted to take advantage of this opportunity but was severely rejected by her. The distance between him and Luoluo became so close, and she shrank her shoulders at this time, making her body even more petite. No. I asked you to take the initiative. Although Luoluo's shoulders were shaking slightly and she was leaning against the wall weakly, she still looked up at Aika with firm eyes. At this time, she unexpectedly chose to show off. Luoluo closed his eyes, maybe just because of fear, maybe because he was waiting. Aika can no longer hold back. Holding back here will only embarrass her. He has also considered the situation and how to deal with it. Lifting up Luoluo's bangs with her other hand, Aika kissed her forehead gently like a dragonfly touching water. To this extent, you can do it just by biting the bullet. Aika was about to leave Luoluo, but her neck suddenly felt restrained. Looking down, Luoluo was holding onto his uniform tie tightly and wouldn't let go. In this position, Luoluo can get what she wants with just a slight tug on the tie. But she didn't do this. This dissatisfaction only lasted for a few seconds before Luoluo let go. Aika staggered back a few steps when she suddenly let go. Are you scared? There was no dissatisfaction in Luoluo's tone, even though Aika didn't do what she thought. Aika loosened the tight tie, but her accelerated heartbeat had not yet slowed down. What if someone sees me? So I didn't use any force. As if feeling shy recalling his actions, Lolo did not blame Aika for being reserved. Sorry, that's all I can do now. Why? We agreed that we can only kiss when we get married. No matter how the world changes, Aika will never make such an agreement with her sister. So this is a lie and a helpless move. Have we ever had such an agreement? Well, you brought it up first. You said that if it was so easy to kiss you, it would be too easy for me. Aika considers herself not an eloquent person, but lies can be fabricated immediately like this. Ling and Wei 11 didn't help him think about how to deal with such a scene. After all, they never expected that it would develop into such a scene. Aika was determined not to break the balance between the two of them because of impulse, so that the lie could be blurted out. In order not to do what lovers would do, but to choose to accept the identity of lovers. A seemingly contradictory choice, as long as it is based on falsehood, everything will fall into place. Because of me. So, I can only give you this kind of evidence. Can it reassure you a little bit? Luoluo didn't answer him immediately. People were coming and going outside the alley, and occasionally someone would notice two of them, but this had no gossip value. I get it, I'm your family too, right? Only you can't be replaced. If you say that, it would be my fault if you get emotional again. Aika rejected such pretentious words in his heart, but he knew that as long as he said this, Luoluo's attitude would soften. So please wait for that time. Well, I believe you. Since Luoluo stopped calling himself brother, Aika had difficulty adapting for a while. The way of communication between the two is completely like a fool in love. For Luoluo, who has nothing now, he is everything to her. Aika didn't know if this idea was too conceited, but even if it wasn't, she should take responsibility for her. Because Luoluo is not his lover, but a real family member. Go home, Aika. Luoluo's back left the wall, and she simply used her fingers to comb the bangs that were messed up by Aika. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 185. Aika thought she could spend the rest of the day leisurely with Luoluo, but this thought only lasted until the two walked out of the alley. The other party seemed to have premeditated it. After Aika quietly returned to the street holding Luoluo's hand, he immediately surrounded him. "Hello, can I delay your time for a moment?" Two adult men and women in formal attire stood in front of Aika and Luoluo. It was the male among them who called out to them. "Excuse me, what's the matter?" Aika habitually stood in front of Luoluo. Being spoken to by an unknown person in the imperial capital would make a normal person suspicious, even if it was not an emergency. "They are still children, you should be nicer." The woman who was partnering with the man saw Aika's vigilance. She pushed the man away dissatisfied and communicated with the two of them on his behalf. "I'm sorry, I scared you." The woman apologized to the two confused people with a smile on her face. The pressure she brought was much less than that of the man. The man who was left aside smiled bitterly and handed over all the communication tasks to the woman. "Actually, that's what we do." The woman handed over her business card with both hands. Aika, who turned from vigilance to doubt, took the small card. Although PDA authentication has become common in daily life, this form of business card still often appears in formal occasions. Luoluo no longer hid behind Aika and looked at the information on the business card with him. The other party seemed to work at a well-known bridal shop on Center Street. Aika had a vague impression of the name of the shop. He vaguely remembered passing by this shop when he came here before. "You are students at Shigetsuki Academy, right?" Aika and Luoluo are both wearing uniforms now, so there is nothing strange about their identities being revealed. "Well, I have something to do at home, so I came back to take a look." Aika simply explained with reasonable excuses. Even if the other party has other intentions, no useful information can be derived from this sentence. Big sister guessed it right. "Actually, we are holding an event now." Activity. Luoluo seemed to be interested in this word. "Yes, it's an event. We have a newly designed wedding dress, but the size of the finished product is too small, and none of our models fit it very well." "I see." Luoluo nodded as if he understood. "So, we need to find younger models." "You two are a couple, right?" Luoluo answered for Aika first. "That would be great. Can you ask this little sister to be a temporary model for a while?" In fact, Aika has already guessed their purpose, and Luoluo must also know it. "Aika, let's go give it a try, okay?" This was the first time that Luoluo was so interested in something after losing his memory. Although this request was somewhat suspicious, Aika felt there was no need to rush to reject it. "Then go and give it a try, I will watch you from the side." "Little brother, please come on stage too." "Why do I have to come too? How can the bride be without the groom? Do you want other men to stand next to your girlfriend in a wedding dress? Is this the only extent of your love for her?" The woman suddenly became excited. Under her verbal attack, even Luoluo glanced at Aika angrily. Okay, I understand." Aika could only give up on herself and accept the unequal treaty. "Is it okay if I stand by her side?" "Yes." At that time, everyone's attention will be focused on the bride, so you don't need to be nervous. "Aika, if you're nervous, I can hold your hand." "That will only make me more nervous." "Yeah." Luoluo tilted her head. It seemed that she really thought that this method could help Aika relieve her tension. "If you agree, please come with us." Under the guidance of the other party, Aika indeed recalled the scene when passing this bridal shop. At that time, Luoluo was not the only one who was interested. Wei 11 was also looking at the store through the window with longing eyes, while Ling said she was not interested, but glanced at the window from time to time. A smile naturally appeared on Aika's lips. Ika, you look happy. Is that so? He quickly touched his face. Have you been here before? I just passed by here once, and you were there at that time. Did I say anything? It seems like I didn't say anything special. In Ika's impression, Lululo should just hope to wear a white wedding dress one day, her eyes said so. Yeah. Lululo lowered his head and put a little more force on the hand that intertwined with Ika's fingers. After that, Lululo followed the female clerk into the cubicle, while Ika was taken in the opposite direction by the male clerk. Men's clothing was no different from ordinary formal attire, and Ika dressed up easily. After waiting in the store for a long time, Lululo did not come out of the booth. Luxurious clothing like a wedding dress could only be put on with the help of other people. It was a rare opportunity to come to a wedding dress shop. Ika looked around the store for a week and felt that the atmosphere was incompatible with a person like herself. If I go into a bridal shop next time, I will probably accompany Lululo to choose a wedding dress. At that time, the woman's hypothetical scenario would become a reality. Lolo, who is wearing a wedding dress, is surrounded by her boyfriend. Ika will stand closest to her parents to bless them. For whom to bless? What to bless? Ika's heart suddenly became anxious, as if all the dissatisfaction in the life he had lived came to his heart at once. Clenching her fists on her knees, Ika caught a glimpse of white from the corner of her eyes. Ika. A gentle call sounded above my head. When this gentle voice came into my mind, all the dissatisfaction quickly receded like a tide. Lululo, you have already changed. You look so strange. I'm so nervous, haha. Although he couldn't explain the reason, Ika firmly believed that Lululo must not know what he was thinking just now. If he can't even send blessings for her future life, then what qualifications do he have to call himself her brother? That's good, I was shocked. Haha. The white wedding dress seems to be shining with a gorgeous and elegant charm. The skirt is decorated with layers of delicate pleats, and a layer of light gauze covers it like a light mist. Even if there is no breeze blowing in the store, the tulle still dances gently with the airflow, and the skirt is fluttering. The cuffs are cut short in front and long in back, and the edges are decorated with uneven lace. Ika doesn't know whether the words created by humans can describe this work of heaven. Tell me something. Lululo gently lifted up the hem of her skirt with both hands and turned it left and right. Would it look weird to wear a figure like mine? Lululo's body cannot be said to be mature, but maturity is not a word used to describe a girl. The pale white wedding veil is draped over her long sky blue hair, highlighting her beauty. There is no orchid heart on her white neck, but a very high-end blue crystal necklace. If she were in a social situation, everyone would definitely regard her as the princess of a country. It's not weird at all, it's beautiful. Really? Lululo was still dubious. Even a well-informed princess of a country will turn into an ignorant and panicked ordinary girl the moment she puts on a white wedding dress. If the store clerk allows me, I'd like to hug you right now. Please be sure not to do this, the wedding dress will get wrinkled. The clerk appeared from behind Lululo with a smile on her face. Then, let's go to the venue now. As expected, I have to show it in front of many people. When he heard the word go on stage, Ika had already anticipated the magnitude of the scene. Is there still a venue? Miss Lululo, who actively accepted the invitation, seemed to completely ignore all kinds of prompts, and her already red cheeks became even redder. Of course, this is the first time this newly designed wedding dress is shown to the public. The effect will be even better after you put it on. There was no flattery in the female clerk's words, she really meant it. But Lululo looked at Ika in embarrassment, his eyes showing the intention of asking for help. If you're nervous, you can hold my hand. Ika returned the sentence to her intact. How cunning, you know it will only make you more nervous. If it were not blocked by the puffy skirt, Lululo would definitely hit Ika on the chest with her small fist. I just wanted to remind you that the groom is responsible for guiding the bride when she goes on stage. Guide. They have never seen the scene of marriage, and of course they will not know what to do when they become the protagonist. Come on, raise your hands, yes, that's it, and then you do this. The clerk patiently explained to the couple what they needed to pay attention to during the wedding. The limousine was already waiting at the entrance of the bridal shop, and the exhibition venue was very close to here. The venue was crowded with people, the first few groups of models had been displayed, and the MC was saying something on the stage. The accompanying shop assistant urged Aika and Luoluo to prepare quickly. It was said to be preparation, but now only mental preparation remains. The last thing I will show you is the latest design from Master Aurora. This time, we are honored to invite a pair of young lovers. Whether it is for the two of them or for this wedding dress, these are all very meaningful firsts. It seems that the designer's name has been heard somewhere before, but Aika doesn't have the energy to recall it carefully now. Listening to the MCs presiding in the background, the two of them finally calmed down and became uneasy again. Is this promoting the wedding dress, or is it promoting us? Aika's jokes would only be counterproductive at a time like this. Everyone will only pay attention to the wedding dress, not me. Luoluo's self-hypnosis method generally does not work when you are upset. Then please. Come on. Come on. The clerk watched them off and encouraged them softly, while Aika and Luoluo could only pretend to be calm on the surface. Walking up a short flight of stairs, the view suddenly opens up. Everywhere he looked there were people. The moment the two men took the stage, the audience burst into thunderous applause and cheers. Image. Obviously, it was the introduction by the MC just now that achieved this effect. There must be many people paying more attention to the identities of the young lovers than to their wedding dresses. Luoluo, do what you said before. Aika whispered to Luoluo, who was a little stunned. Only then did she react and carefully held Aika's arm with her right hand wearing a white silk glove. Before listening to the explanation from the clerk, the two of them thought that they could just hold hands, but they didn't expect that the distance was further than they imagined. As long as Aika's elbow moves a little, he will touch the softness that he should not feel. The fingers holding Aika's sleeves trembled suddenly. This subtle movement made it impossible for Aika to take his attention away from Luoluo's arm. This was not the first time the two of them had tried this kind of posture. At that time, they would naturally have this kind of physical contact through clothes. However, at that time, no one would care, maybe Luoluo would care a little, but Aika had no way of knowing. Regardless of her identity as a sister or a lover, this kind of unintentional contact is understandable. When these two identities that cannot intersect are mixed together. Aika glanced furtively to her side. Luoluo didn't look at him, her expression and her mood were all unknown. In her left hand, Luoluo held the round flower ball that the clerk gave her. It was a white rose in its prime. White roses symbolize pure love. She couldn't lift her skirt like she did in a dance, and every step she took looked very reserved. The red carpet was rolled out all the way on the booth, and Aika also slowed down in order to match Luoluo's pace. On the way to the venue, the clerk emphasized that she must look at the audience and smile, and Luoluo's performance did not disappoint her. At this moment, only Aika, who could touch her, would know her nervousness. Aika himself was very unsuited to deal with such a situation, and the smile on his lips made even his own spine tingle. The two people's eyes would occasionally meet, but at this time, Luoluo's encouraging smile was only shown by Aika. The enthusiastic atmosphere at the scene became more and more intense. With a feeling of uneasiness, the two finally reached the front of the stage. They only needed to stay here for a while before returning to the backstage along the original path. Luoluo's body suddenly became unstable. In fact, I was very panicked because I accidentally stepped on the hem of my skirt. Not to mention that I was still wearing high heels that I was not used to. My body lost its balance and leaned forward unnaturally. At this moment, Luologo grabbed Aika's sleeve tightly. At this moment, Aika didn't need to think, Luologo's small gesture of asking for help was clearly felt. Without thinking, he put his left hand around Luologo's weak waist, firmly supporting her body, and at the same time pulled her into his arms, and the two of them became face to face. The knowledge of social dancing learned in August comes in handy at times like this. Everything happened too suddenly, Aika didn't control her strength well, and Luologo's wide-eyed cheek was only a breath away from her. The surrounding audience applauded in unison, and there were also whistles. In the eyes of the audience, this was not an accident, but a deliberately arranged performance. The clerk, who could see clearly in the background, could not hide her eyes widening in surprise at this moment. What a unique performance! The master of ceremonies nodded in admiration. I do not know. The clerk could only answer him this sentence. This time it was the MC who was surprised. His eyes returned to the stage. Luologo seemed to have forgotten that she was on the stage, and there were countless audiences watching below. Her moist eyes were always looking at Aika blankly. Luologo's gaze seemed to have special magic power, and Aika was also dumbfounded looking at her face. Kiss me. A voice like this came out from somewhere in the crowd, and then, the voice quickly spread among the audience. Kiss me. Kiss me. Kiss me. Kiss him if he's a man. Don't make girls wait. The echoes grew louder and louder, and everyone seemed to have forgotten the original intention of this exhibition. Now they only focused on one thing. How did it become like this? The boiling atmosphere in the audience forced Aika to be unable to let go of Luologo at this time. Do you want to come? Luologo's moist eyes stared at Aika quietly, and he was still looking up slightly, which made him shake even more. Although before this, Luologo took the initiative to ask Aika for a kiss, but that was when there was no one around. I do not know. The distance between the two was very close, and it was not obvious from the audience that they were secretly communicating. Therefore, the audience's cheers have not subsided, and they even added rhythm, unified the slogan, and enhanced the momentum. The words on the lips, the audience can't see clearly. Luologo no longer forced Aika to kiss her lips directly. Against the backdrop of the white wedding dress, her red cheeks became more obvious. This is the only thing we can do, can you close your eyes? It felt completely different from when he kissed Luologo's forehead in the alley. Being surrounded by so many people was like a form of torture. Luologo's body did not dare to move at all in Aika's arms. This time she would definitely not pull on Aika's tie. He leaned close to Luologo's cheek, and his warm breath lingered on Aika's skin, and the tingling sensation spread throughout his body. Aika couldn't even tell whether he had touched her lips. When the distance between the two people's faces shortened to zero, the cheers from the audience instantly increased several times in volume, and even people who didn't know the truth joined in to watch in public. Many of them took photos of the two people kissing. At this time, the faces of the two people cannot be seen in the photos, but it will be immediately clear when combined with the photos from the previous catwalk. After satisfying the audience, Aika slowly let go of Luologo's waist and took her hand back to the backstage. To be precise, it was Luologo who had his head lowered and forcefully pulled Aika to escape backstage. Judging from the results, Luologo's mistake became the most successful highlight of the entire exhibition, which was gratifying for the store employees, but Aika and Luologo seemed to have experienced a catastrophe. On the way back to the bridal shop, only the two in front were talking non-stop. Aika and Luologo sitting in the back seemed to have lost their minds and couldn't hear what they were saying. After changing back to the Shiyu Academy uniforms stored in the bridal shop, the two of them finally regained some sense of normalcy. The clerk smiled and handed a rectangular coupon to Aika with both hands. This is a small reward that we specially prepared for you too. If you need it, you can use this coupon to customize any wedding dress in the store at any time, free of charge. Is it for us? When Aika took the coupon, there was a hint of bitterness in her heart. Will there really be a time when this coupon is useful? I originally planned to give you the wedding dress directly, but in the end I thought this form was more appropriate. Thank you, we'll accept it then. Lugo just lowered his head slightly and said nothing. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 186. The sun unknowingly moved to the top of the head. In just a few hours, too much happened. Just having close contact with Lugo twice, when thinking of this, Aika's face was as hot as fire. Lugo's side face was always red, and her ears were also flushed. Aika didn't know if it was appropriate to talk to her at this time, because she didn't know her true mood now. Because she lost her memory, her actions became unpredictable, and Aika couldn't guess her thoughts with confidence. Lolo. Anyway, Aika called her name with the mentality of giving it a try. Lugo didn't respond, but looked at him slightly sideways. No, it's okay, I just screamed. Lugo immediately turned back. Aika couldn't understand what she meant at all. It seemed vaguely that her walking speed was getting slower and slower. After climbing up the long stairs again, the two finally returned to Liuyun's mansion. After entering the hall, Lugo finally said his first words to Aika. Aika, I want to take a shower first. It was still noon, and she had already washed herself once when she went out in the morning. Aika couldn't understand her actions, but she still nodded to show that she understood. Lugo stepped back slightly, took the paper bag containing pajamas from Aika, and hurried up the stairs. There was a sound of the door being closed on the second floor. Aika, who was left in the hall, worried alone for a while and returned to his room before Lolo went downstairs. After Lugo locked the door of the bathroom dressing room, he began to take off his uniform jacket. Folding the changed uniforms and putting them in the laundry basket, Lugo removed the last line of defense. He glanced at the locked door, then folded his underwear and placed it on top of his coat. After rinsing his body, he soaked in a large bathtub that could accommodate 2 people. Although I can't say I like the shower gel I found in the bathroom, I don't hate it either. Soaking his body in the flower-scented water, he recalled various things that happened this morning. Being kissed on the cheek by Aika in full view of everyone, Lolo realized that his body was responding uncontrollably. I had to change back into my uniform at the bridal shop by myself. I didn't want others to see me like this, even if I was the same sex. Along the way, you can clearly feel this sticky discomfort. There is a tickling feeling deep in the body. The water in the bathtub rippled gently. Lugo raised his head in a daze, looking at the blurry ceiling with empty eyes. The long sky blue hair that was originally curled spread out on the water, and the dizzy brain gradually began to cool down. Only then did Lugo notice the liquid overflowing from the corner of his eyes. Why? Tears, can't stop. Lugo's craftsmanship has not disappeared with the memory. After taking a shower, she began to prepare lunch for the 2 of them. Why do you need to freeze all the ingredients? She regarded all the masterpieces of Liuyun magic as Aika's doings. If you freeze it, it can be stored for a longer period of time. Aika guessed that Liuyun did this for this reason. This seems to make sense. Lugo simply accepted the reason Aika made up at random. Today's lunch also tastes of Lolo. In the afternoon, they went out to add ingredients for future life. Lugo said she didn't want to go to Center Street, and Aika could understand her mood. If you go to Center Street now, you will definitely become the center of attention. This urban topic shouldn't last long, so the 2 of them felt a little relieved. So they went to a neighborhood a little further away. After buying all the necessary things, it was already getting dusk. The time agreed with Way 11 was 1 week. In a week, the two of them will return to Shimizuki Academy. A week's rest? Well, I'm very satisfied. Aika, is your health okay? It has fully recovered. You don't have to worry about me now. Restoring your memory is the most important thing. Actually, I think it's pretty good the way it is now. Classmate Ling and classmate Wei 11, as long as they become friends again. Lolo. If you are by my side, even if the memory cannot be restored, we will definitely be able to live on. It's not like that, Lolo, it's not as simple as you think. Aika is unable to correct the misunderstanding that Lolo has entered, because he has the same fantasy as Lolo in his heart. In Lolo's world, as long as Aika reveals everything she has forgotten, and then she firmly believes it in her heart, the damaged world will be repaired. Why? I will believe whatever you say. Sorry. We can continue to live in that home from now on, can't we? Sorry, I cannot do it. Only the evening breeze blew between the two of them, as if they were separated from each other. After recovering my memory, can I still live like this now? Maybe, it's hard. Aika made a difficult choice to tell the truth. After a long time, Lolo spoke softly. Aika, I believe you. Okay, let's not talk about this anymore. Lolo suddenly patted his cheek and cheered up. What do you want to eat first tonight? As long as you do it, it's okay. If you say that, it makes no sense at all. Then let me think about it. Life now is like a bubble on the water. Aika knows it well, and Lolo may also be vaguely aware of it. All they can do is cherish every minute they can spend together. That night, Aika came to Lolo's room. Lolo put on the simple nightgown that Aika had chosen for her, and her long sky blue hair was tied to her chest as always. Her living habits have not changed, and Aika has found another reason to reassure herself. This late. Lolo was a little surprised by Aika's visit, and she let Aika into her room without hesitation. This is the first time Aika has entered this girl-only room, so he doesn't know if Lolo has changed the layout of the room. I'm here to give this back to you. Aika put the heart of orchid around her neck, and the light aqualight slowly flowed in the gem. So beautiful, Lolo saw the necklace around his neck through the full-length mirror. Did you buy it for me? This is. Aika paused. My parents gave it to you. Lolo's smile stiffened. Have I already met your parents? That's it? She shyly blocked her smile. At this time, as long as Aika says your parents gave it to you, the meaning will change greatly. Why am I subconsciously deepening her misunderstanding? Aika's hands in her pockets were clenched into fists, and her nails even pierced her palms. You should rest early, I'll go back first. The heavy guilt prevented Aika from staying in this room for another second. He said hello and turned to leave. Please wait a moment. Lolo suddenly hugged Aika's arm from behind him and kept him where he was. It doesn't matter if I go to sleep later. Aika had originally made up her mind to leave no matter what she said, but the reason she had thought about became unspeakable after hearing Lolo's voice. There will still be time. Even if it hurts her, he can only do this. Aika withdrew her arm from Lolo's chest and resisted the urge to look back. He knew that as long as he looked back, he would never be able to leave here again. Good night. After Aika took 2 steps, she heard a soft good night from behind. At this moment, her warmth, her voice, and her expression were like poison that corroded the nerves for Aika. He could only use a door and a wall to escape from all this. That night, Aika fell asleep with a strong sense of fatigue. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 187. A week flew by, and Lolo no longer made any difficult demands on Aika. She keeps the housework in order every day, and there is nothing that Aika needs to worry about. In her free time, Aika will teach her how to use basic magic. Although she has forgotten the theoretical knowledge, the release of basic magic is no problem for her. Ika deeply feels that he and Luoluo may be a concrete manifestation of polarization. Luoluo spends most of his time taking care of the flowers and plants in the front yard, and there is a danger barrier set up by Liuyan in the backyard. After Ika explained to Luoluo, she stopped going near the backyard. During the night's rest time, Ika did not visit Lolo's room again. Luoluo would sometimes sit in Ika's room for a while and leave during bedtime. During this period, the trouble Ika was worried about did not come to her door. He has also read the news about the Bizi Empire. The situation in the imperial capital is indeed very unstable. The Imperial City Defense Bureau headquarters building is located in the East District where they are located, but now the incident has spread to the Industrial Northwest District. Ika has no time to care about national affairs now, and Luoluo's memory ranks first among all things. She had adapted to her new life during this time, but showed no sign of regaining a shred of memory. Even so, the purpose of bringing her to live in the imperial capital alone has been achieved. Before leaving, Ika and Luoluo cleaned Liuyan's entire home, and Ika also expressed her gratitude to Liuyan through text messages. What he didn't expect was that Ling and Wei 11 temporarily moved into Abby and Zixie's dormitory when they came back. Our room is locked. If you tell Luoluo that the room is unusable, she will not go in. Brother Ika, Sister Ling and I took the liberty to go to Luoluo's room and temporarily stored things in our room that were not suitable for her to see now. We are very sorry. Just tell Luoluo, you two live here too. By the way, when you leave, the things you asked us to do have been settled. At least in our class, everyone will cooperate with you too. Everyone in the student union, the seniors of Uegwin Bath, and other people who are close to us have been notified, but we still ask you to stay with Luoluo as much as possible. We can't help you with the rest. Just talk casually in the classroom. Don't act like we're familiar with each other in front of Luoluo, got it? Brother Ika, Luoluo will definitely get better. Please cheer up. Originally, he was still thinking about how to explain to Luoluo about living with them, but now he no longer needs to worry. Back in front of the caretaker's cabin, the windows were dark. Turning on the lights in the hall, Ling and Wei 11 seemed to have cleaned up before leaving. The dormitory of Frost Moon Academy. Luoluo looked around in the hall, no longer as reserved as when he first entered Liuyan's mansion. This is just because there are not enough rooms in the dormitory building, so they were temporarily lent to us. The spare key managed by Luoluo and the original key to her own room were taken back by Ling when she was admitted to the hospital, and now she only leaves the latter on the table in the hall. Here, the key to your room. When did the keys come back? Probably one of the instructors sent it back with help. So that's it? Ika took Luoluo to the second floor. The room at the end of the corridor is unavailable, so I don't have a key. Is it a warehouse or something? That's about it. Ika dealt with it casually. This is your room, I'm right next to you. Luoluo carefully took out the key to his room and inserted it into the keyhole. The door was opened easily. Ika also entered her room. Although Ling and Wei 11 tidied the room carefully, Ika could only feel relieved after checking it in person. He glanced around, and there seemed to be nothing to worry about. Ika, are you looking for something? No, Ika smiled casually. This house is not very spacious. The toilet and bathroom are at the corner downstairs. If you have any questions, please ask me. Well, thank you. By the way, can I use the things in this room as I please? What are you talking about? Everything here belongs to you. Well, I understand. That's it? Ika and Luoluo said a brief goodbye, returned to their room, took off their uniform jackets, and hung them on the wall. Now when I think back to myself a week ago, I can only feel a deep sense of immaturity. Life in the caretaker's cabin is much the same as a week ago. Before going to bed, Luoluo came to Ika's room. She was now wearing the white shirt she had taken from Ika long ago. Because Ika didn't fit the size, Luoluo forcefully took her back to her room. This was the first time she stood in front of Ika wearing this dress. Luoluo had just finished taking a shower, and her long hair was still a little wet. Ika, do you have time now? Yeah. This dress. When Ika saw her dressed like this, she was speechless for a moment. Is this one? The one I found in the closet should be yours, right? Luoluo raised his arms, his sleeves were a little loose. The underwear is indeed well worn, and the young legs stretch out from under the white shirt. Barely within the safe range, Ika breathed a sigh of relief. Did you guess it? I'm not guessing, it smells like you. Don't use such strange words. The clothes that have been stored in Luoluo's wardrobe for several years will not leave their own flavor no matter how hard they say it. She had never worn this dress in front of Ling and Wei 11. After moving into the caretaker's cabin, Ika saw her wearing a white shirt for the first time. While looking at Ika's room, Luoluo walked to the bed and sat down. Actually, I have something I want to talk to you about. I'm going to the classroom tomorrow. Are you uneasy? A little bit, everyone remembers me, but I forgot all of them. Luoluo's tone was full of self-blame. This is not your fault. But that's the truth, Ika, what should I do? Her hands grasped her sleeves tightly and folded on her knees. Confusion spread in her heart. As long as you can return to the classroom in high spirits, it will be the best compensation for everyone. Is this okay? Everyone is waiting for you to come back, so you just have to respond to their expectations. Ika placed her PDA next to her, and the text messages were arranged on the screen in order of receipt. Of course, all text messages that she cannot see have been deleted in advance. Luoluo swiped the screen. The senders were all unfamiliar names, but the contents were surprisingly similar. Do you understand now? Don't worry about what happens next. Just do what you want, and everyone will understand you. Then, Luoluo asked something about the twin classes. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ika opened the photos of the first day of the Moonflower Festival stored on her PDA and reintroduced her classmates to her. Regarding Ling and Wei 11, he briefly introduced them just like introducing other students. I looked so busy at that time. Because there is no memory of that time, there is no feeling of nostalgia in Luoluo's tone. You are the organizing committee member of the twin class, so of course you will be very busy. On the way back here, I was always worried and didn't know how to face them, but now I have some expectations. I promise, I won't let you down. The next day, the whole class held a grand welcome party for Lolo. The disguised lover's identity has been revealed to the class. Of course, there are jealous voices among the boys, but the girls are very excited. Luoluo, who was snatched away from Ika, looked confused. Of course, he couldn't help much in this situation. The girls seemed to be only more interested in what happened during this week. How's it going? Taking advantage of the short time that Luoluo left, Ling walked to Ika's side, and Wei 11 also followed her. I don't seem to have remembered anything, but I should have no problem living a normal life now. You have no effect at all. Ling sighed heavily and pressed her forehead helplessly. Brother Ika, thank you for your hard work. It's too early to say that, and there's actually no progress at all. I have also asked Tutor Terra here. It seems that using magic will not work. Magic that interferes with the spirit is still under research. Other races may have solutions, but there is no time to investigate. Sister Ling, Luoluo is coming back. That's all I have to say. By the way. Ling glanced at Ika. During this period, nothing happened to you, right? Well, nothing special. Okay then, come on, too. Brother Ika, let's go first. Before Luoluo noticed this side, Ling and Wei 11 left Ika. After that, Lulu's life at Chuanjiao Academy was as usual except for the temporary interruption of the moonlight bath work, with Wei 11 and other seniors taking turns to take over. For the specialized subjects arranged in the afternoon, the two of them had to go to different teaching locations, which Ika couldn't take care of at this time. It doesn't matter, I can do it alone. Then be careful and don't follow someone you don't know. I'm not a child. Well, let's meet here after school. Finally, after touching Lulu's head, she still looked a little unhappy and puffed out her cheeks. Ika had no choice but to say goodbye to her in front of the school building with a wry smile.